Mr. Chairman, you know the 18th century British statesman and philosopher Edmund Burke once said, "The only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing." When political leaders failed to denounce anti-Semitic violence and slurs, the void is not only demoralizing to the victims, but silence actually enables the wrongdoing. Silence by elected officials, in particular, conveys approval or at least acquiescence, and can contribute to a climate of fear and a sense of vulnerability. For its part, the United States has been collecting hate crime information for almost 20 years. Many of the 50 states in the U.S. have enacted their own laws addressing hate crimes. Congress passed the Federal Hate Crime Statistic Act in 1990, which requires the Attorney General to collect data each year about crimes that, quote, manifest evidence of prejudice. The most recent report available, the 2007 Hate Crimes Statistics Report, documented that religious bias motivated 1,477 offenses that malaffected 1,628 victims. Of this total, a whopping 68%, almost 7 out of 10, were anti-Semitic in nature. By way of contrast, 9% were anti-Muslim and 8.5% were anti-Christian. All of this despite the fact that only 1.7% of the U.S. population, or about 6 million people, are Jewish. Totally disproportionate. One positive consequence of reporting as well is the impact it has on police. When solid reporting is coupled with police training, fewer acts of anti-Semitic violence are likely to occur. The public sharing of this information enhances accountability and allows interested communities and NGOs to craft and implement strategies. Meanwhile, on another level of reporting, many victims of anti-Semitic acts in all countries fail to report, perhaps out of fear of retaliation or lack of awareness as to how to register such a complaint. That has got to change. There is a compelling need to strengthen the OSCE Law Enforcement Officer Program on combating hate crime, a novel, effective program whereby police train police trainers to recognize and investigate hate crime, including anti-Semitic acts. Other regions of the world should borrow that concept. Enhanced penalties for crimes committed against people or property, where the motive in whole or in part was based on religious hatred, is key to properly punishing or deterring these types of crime. We have those kinds of laws. I encourage you to take a strong look at those and perhaps implement them in your own countries. Finally, if we are to protect our children from evil, the evil of anti-Semitism, we must re-educate ourselves and systematically educate our children. While that starts in our homes, the classroom must be the incubator of tolerance. It seems to me that only the most hardened racists can remain unmoved by Holocaust education and remembrance. Only the most crass, evil, and prejudiced among us can study the horrors of the Holocaust and not cry out, "Never again." Abraham Lincoln once said, "To sin by silence when they should protest makes cowards of men." Silence, my friends, is not an option, nor is inaction. Mr. Chairman, I yield back and I thank you.
Chris, thank you for opening the conference for us so appropriately, and for your work on the committee. Now, a few organisational matters. Firstly, remiss of me, the languages, you're all experienced, I know, but this is for the English, because the English will always get this wrong. Number one is English. This means when someone speaks in Spanish, French or German, that you use the headsets, particularly talking to all the English delegates here, and channel number one. So the first time that happens, we'll pause momentarily while everyone works out the system. Language 2 French, Language 3 Spanish, Language 4 German, but I know that those delegations are already worked out on that, so thank you. When you speak, so that we can transcribe this and know who you are, please give your name so that we know who is speaking. And we will, during the day, I say we because several people will be chairing during the day, we will get everybody in wanting to speak, as long as people are to the point with their remarks. So we won't exclude anyone, and some people have already indicated we will take people and get people in to speak. The first part of the day will be the report backs from the working groups from yesterday, so that everyone can benefit from what has been learnt and thought through by those working groups. We had 9 working groups of parliamentarians and of the experts that we've invited, and I'm going to invite the chair of each of those working groups to give an accurate and succinct report back on their work. Following that, there may be some questions, some discussion that comes. At 11 o'clock, my co-host here for today, Foreign Minister Mark Mallock-Brown, will speak. We then will move into the full plenary session, though there will be the chance to ask him, if there are questions on his contribution, the chance to ask him questions and have some debate as well. I think people may want that. But we will move into the full plenary throughout the rest of the day. Finally, there is a draft declaration that is being suggested by the 6-member steering committee, but that will be circulated later this morning to see whether people think it's an appropriate summary or not of the conference. There will be the chance to discuss that later in the day as well. I hope everyone's happy with those arrangements, and I therefore will call the first working group to report back, and we will take Gert Weisskirchen.
John, thank you so much. We have dealt with the problem of antisemitism in public discourse, and all of us, we know that discourses are on the spot and in the public space. That means this is a very complex issue, and if you look into the societal debates within our respective countries, then you will find out first that there is antisemitism to be seen in different ways and in different contexts, but there is all over the place in industrialized countries and in other countries to be seen that kind of constant, continuing anti-Semitic attitudes. It differs around different countries, but in substance there is roughly 10% anti-Semitic attitudes all over the different countries to be seen. Sometimes there is a peak, especially then when Jews are at stake, especially then when the old discourse that individual Jews are in the front line as being kind of an alien. Nowadays you see that the collective Jew is coming to the forefront. That means that Israel is the one at stake. So in this regard you see a picture of anti-Semitism changing